Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 636 on Tuesday, the 17th of June, 2025. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week you'll hear about a French surprise. In new car news, you can sing happy birthday to one car. And in points of interest, you can put your drink down whilst you learn about the and finally. And we go straight into new news. And this was a bit of a shock over the weekend because the CEO of Renault Group, Luca De Meo, has announced that he is leaving the brand as of July the 15th to go and head up the French luxury group, Kering. I'm being very British in my pronunciation, which is making Alan wince, I think.
No, the trouble is I don't actually even know how it's pronounced either.
But they own the likes of Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, and some other brands that I've never heard of.
I had to explain Balenciaga. It looks like a joke, but the prices aren't. That was where that came from earlier on. But if you don't know what Balenciaga is, it's what people who drive Mansory-tuned products wear. Okay? That's the best definition I can give for Balenciaga.
That helped me understand. Anyway, he's going off there, I presume, for a slightly less stressful life. I don't know. We were trying to work out the problems with our vast and in-depth knowledge of the luxury goods market, the problems they are facing compared to the automotive world, and we decided that it was probably, instead of having 3 huge issues to deal with, he's only got 1 huge issue to deal with, so maybe easier.
Yes.
But he's done a remarkable job at Renault. He has turned them round. He has now got cars that are very desirable. I don't think they can make enough Renault 5s. I've got people who know that I like cars and talk about them a lot who have no real interest coming up saying, I've ordered a Renault 5. I can't wait for it. It's brilliant. I've test driven it. It's ace. These are normal people, not us nerds, saying this. So they've done a cracking job.
Yeah.
Alan, do you want to take us off to the UK government and spending reviews?
Yeah, far less interesting than luxury goods. There was a government spending review last week, and they have allocated £1.4 billion. That £1.4 billion to support the uptake of electric vehicles. That includes vans and heavy goods vehicles. There's also another £400 million for further rollout of charging infrastructure, which means that to add to the almost 80,000 public charging devices already out there. The National Franchise Dealer Association CEO Sue Robinson said that the government spending review sets a crucial tone for the current year's Masters. Welcome to see investment directed towards infrastructure, skills and EVs. Chancellor Rachel Reeves' MP review, like the spring statement, has left some issues in the dark. The issues in the dark are basically, no, we're not going to pay government money for people to buy shiny things, I'm afraid.
Yes. But an interesting point you mentioned in there was the investment for skills, because there's a ton of the funding is going to go to young people to either enter specific training or upskilling programs, which I think is an important thing and something the industry has been saying a lot. That, what industry doesn't scream, skills gap, panic? However, the ability to provide the training is what I think is lacking into a certain degree.
Well, you can't deliver it until you're able to provide it, one would think.
Yeah, great. This funding will help companies transfer to that quicker.
As far as I'm concerned, my thinking on this is it could have been so much worse, which I know is completely the wrong way to look at these things. But given the fact that everything that already has been cut is being cut more, then actually to get anything, and especially where they're looking at stuff and going, well, this one ticks off 2 birds with one stone of skills and helping the automotive industry, then that's good. There's still mutters about 20% VAT on home charging and all these kind of things. There was no muttering about the big win would really have been dropping the VAT to 5% on public chargers. But of course, there's no sign of that because that means reducing income.
Yeah. Again, we don't know the fine details, and we do not have the capacity to sit and go through all the documents, whether this is extra and new or whether this was the existing that they have just re-announced, or a combination of the two. I suspect it's a combination of the two. I suspect there are some elements. However, the large chunks of it will have already been announced previously, and this is just confirming, no, that's been sort of safeguarded for the time being.
Next up, though, Andrew, UK-US tariffs and the UK-US prosperity deal.
Yes. Less said about that, the better. However, as we record the show today, there was an announcement that a US and UK trade deal had been signed. However, if you remember when we talked about the US-UK trade deal previously, that was announced as a deal that had been signed when all it was they had signed an agreement to discuss certain things to potentially put them in a deal.
Yeah.
We don't know at this stage if it's the deal or still more conversations about the deal.
We should point out, as it sits right at the moment, it is 9:39 a.m. on Tuesday, the 17th of June. So this might be all different by the time this comes out around the same time tomorrow.
Yeah, especially understanding of what it is.
Yes.
However, parking that to one side, if a deal is done, then one of the points was that exports to the US from the UK of cars would be taxed at a 10% tariff instead of 25%. But that is to be capped at 100,000 cars, which ties in with last year because it was 101,000 cars or something like that got exported to the US. So that figure makes sense, and making it a round number, I can see the sense of that looking at who's involved.
Well, you don't want anything difficult.
Well, exactly. Now, of this 10%, the discussion that we're linking to here in the car dealer article is that ministers will need to decide who will get what portions of that 100,000 to be able to export. And whilst we can all laugh and go, well, let's guess who's going to get the biggest chunk of that, because we can pretty much see that where that's looming on the horizon. The other thing to remember is this does actually make a bit of sense, because otherwise it could easily be gamed in a couple of ways. The first is that suddenly manufacturers that do have a production base at all here would bring their American, the vehicles that they would export from elsewhere and suddenly be producing them here, which would distort the existing, let's just call it, market.
I think there is a whole thingy of origin in there, so I'm not quite sure that bringing a vehicle here and sticking some badges on is gonna count.
No, but I'm thinking like Toyota are doing with the GR Corolla.
Yeah, all right.
That's thought to be, what was it, 10,000 cars?
Yes.
Or the potential to 10,000 cars. It's 10% of this rate of the overall figure. Suddenly, buy a new car pitching up on on our lands.
Yeah.
So you can see other manufacturers going, hang on, that's not fair. You changed what was existing. But also, as you were outlining beforehand, it could be that there's like a booking system where somebody books this ahead of time and is taking that out the way, and maybe they don't actually use that up.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's tricky because, of course, there are so many smaller manufacturers here. And what do? Do you bias it towards the lower end of the price range, working on the basis that, well, what's the difference between a 10% tariff and a 25% tariff on a Rolls Royce if the person can, afford it anyway? I mean, I doubt they're going to do that, to be perfectly frank. So Mini and smaller Land Rover products get a better bias of that. Or do you do it the other way and say, well, actually, we need to keep the headline prices of some of the fancier cars down? Of course, there's so many brands in the UK that it becomes very, very tricky, and some of them are incredibly niche, and some of them are kind of niche. How does you pitch Morgan against Bentley, for example?
You've got the smaller manufacturers. Like, I can remember we've said several of the companies in the last 12 months about their plans to expand their US offerings. And so how are you guessing how many you're going to sell? Or are you then saying, sorry, you're going to be limited to this? Hang on, our 5-year plan involved us actually being able, et cetera, et cetera. That is just the knock-on effects of the chaos that is the US regime at the moment, unfortunately. We'll find out who's going to get what, and we'll see how fair it is.
It's never going to be completely fair. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something. It's never going to work out perfectly, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's not the fault of anyone.
No.
I'm sure people will do their best to make it as fair as it can possibly be, but someone's going to lose out.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want to take us to Volvo and something? Wow. It's best it went with you first.
This one is special. Volvo, great reputation for safety and for innovating in safety, and that's fantastic. They invented the 3-point seatbelt. They then released all the patents on it, so anyone could use it, and lo and behold, it's pretty much standard everywhere these days. However, they have declared that they are going to make a major improvement. You see, right at the minute, seatbelts have kind of 3 different modes. They're locked, they're loose, or in conjunction with airbags, they will actually tighten on you, and the buckle end will pull you back into the seat in the event of an airbag deployment. Volvo has said that what they're going to do is they're going to increase the number of sensors around there, and they will be able to adapt the belt load to the size of the occupant, the weight of the occupant, the severity of the crash, etc. The idea being that then lowers the risk of head injury, lowers the risk of seatbelt welts across the body and stuff, where they've tightened maybe a little bit more on bigger people, or make sure it tightens enough if somebody's very small. And this is all cool. That is all good. That's interesting. All of that stuff. The calculations aren't that complicated. It could all be done in the car. That sounds right. Okay, so that's a good bit done.
The theory, you mean?
The theory. The thing is that Volvo is saying, but what we'll do is we'll continually improve this system via over-the-air updates as we learn more about the system and how it's worked. And that scares me. Okay, no matter what the brand, no matter what manufacturer, the last systems in any vehicle that should be connected to any over-the-air thing and the internet are the safety systems. Especially I'm going to call them passive safety systems, but when you've already had a crash. The last thing I want to go anywhere near the internet are airbag controllers, because I hate airbags anyway. I really did that Audi Procon 10 didn't make it, but the face firework did.
Yeah.
And seatbelts. I don't want anybody to have any ability whatsoever to access, tweak, do anything to any electronic seatbelt settings. And I'd much rather seatbelts actually remain mechanical for that reason, as much as possible. And the trouble is that this then is Volvo. Now, Volvo, as I said at the start, brilliant, excellent safety reputation. However, their software reputation, I'm trying to think of a phrase that's not going to get replaced by a European siren. It's not good.
Not currently. No.
Not currently. But the last thing I want to go in is go in, need to go somewhere, and it declare that it's not going to start and it's not going to drive because there is a bug in the seatbelt software thanks to the latest upgrade. That is just not right. And if we're for a moment, they've basically told us we'll work out how to improve it by sending data back to Volvo about the size, weight, whatever of passengers and whoever in your car, in other cars. I don't like that. I don't like that one little tiny bit. So whilst the idea is great, I just don't.
In the current climate, with the current standard of technology in the industry and with the current way that information is dealt with by companies as a whole across the globe, the execution of this idea will not be successful.
And I know I'm really pooping on Volvo here, but that's because Volvo has presented this. That I could equally, instead of Volvo, say many other manufacturers.
Well, there was one brand not so long ago that did an over-the-air update to unexpected braking, where the update actually did unintended acceleration. So they had to do another update after that. Don't anyone come to me with over-the-air update is this brilliant thing. It is not, because nobody is approaching this and executing it as it is, as it should be, which is a safety critical system on any software that goes to the car, and therefore that takes longer and slower and much more methodical. We have got companies that are saying, let's use AI to write code. Oh my word, I don't want to go near you now.
I don't know. Agile has a lot to answer for.
Yes, that con. Anyway, let's move on to some much more positive and better news.
Then this is good news. I like this one.
Yes. And this is a company called BELIEV without a final E. Oh, come on.
it's really bad because you go to search for it and Google automatically corrects your spelling.
Yes.
And then you have to go, no, I do actually want to search for it with that spelling. Because I hadn't really heard of them before, but it turns out that's just because I've been out of the country for 2 years.
Well, I hadn't heard about them really either, and I've been here. But BELIEV is a public charging operator, and it has secured £300 million worth of funding, both private and public, to install 30,000 new chargers across the country. They do a lot of stuff of on-street parking charging, which is great because that is going to become more and more of an issue as the rollout of and uptake of electric vehicles expands, particularly if you look at the van sector as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a good thing. But not only that, they are looking at rural and other underserved areas, which I love to hear because I feel that the rural side of things is been forgotten because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
They're small local markets as well, so you're not going to get the return as quickly as you expect. And it's just, it's just tricky from a connectivity network and the other stuff you need to provide to take up the slack.
I went off to do a little bit of swatting up. Once this story was in there, I was like, okay, so who are these people? Where do they operate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Turns out, loads in Northamptonshire. And that's why it's because I've been out of the country. Loads across Northamptonshire and also around Greater London. Not central London because it's a nightmare with all the small councils and it's scattered. If you go to their website, once you finally worked your way through Google to get to it, then you'll see that around the outer part of London, but kind of still within the M25, then they've got a lot of chargers. And then up further north, kind of across Northamptonshire, they've got lots of chargers. And that's interesting because it's both quite heavily built up areas like Wandsworth, one of the areas where not many driveways, lots of on-street parking. So loads of low-powered chargers there. And then you go up to Corby and I'll be spoiled rotten, to be honest, if I was still there. And then around there, they've got rapids in some of the car parks that just weren't there before. And they've also got out in some of the sort of the residential areas, they've got quite a lot of lower-powered overnight chargers, essentially, that are on the streets, that are curbside. And again, in places like Wandsworth, loads of curbside charging stuff. And then out into villages as well. Some of the villages in more rural Northamptonshire, again, curbside charging, overnight charging, all of that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting mix. I mean, they're absolutely the opposite end of the scale from some of the big charging companies that we all know, the sort of InstaVolts and GridServes and stuff. They're very much, okay, so we've got some of these 50 kilowatts, but we've got far higher percentage of lower powered chargers, which is what more people need in those areas,
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I like this.
I was really impressed by them. They've been doing stuff like dropping the prices, dropping their rates and things, especially in areas where people don't have off-street parking, to try to get closer to parity with off-street parking. Obviously, they can't quite make it because, there's quite a lot of tax difference between the two, but they are at least making an effort.
Yep. Right, do you want to take us on to the final story of part one? And again, it's probably best to you that it begins with.
I'm going to try not to dwell on this one. UK government has been making a big cry about lots of technology things as if they have a clue what they're talking about. And trust me, a bunch of lawyers and arts majors really don't. So as well as all the AI stuff, they are also desperate for autonomous vehicles. Desperate. Uber, yes, the most ethical company in the world. Oh, no. Uber is going to trialing robot taxis in London in the very near future. And not just them, but also WAYVE. That's WAYVE, which is based in Cambridge, are going to be trying the same in London as well. This is a defining moment for UK autonomy, says WAYVE's co-founder and chief Alex Kendall. With Uber and a global OEM partner, we're preparing to put our AI driver technology into real service on the streets of London, delivering our AV 2.0 vision for scalable autonomy. Which just makes me want to puke, to be perfectly honest. I love that the Top Gear article says that OEM partner, and then in brackets, biz speak for car maker, hasn't been disclosed yet. And then it says, but WAYVE and Uber have previously deployed the Ford Mustang Mach-E and Jaguar I-Pace, and only one of those is produced anymore, which means it's probably going to be a Mustang Mach-E.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. okay, let's see, run away.
You know how you did research into BELIEVE? Well, I did research into WAYVE, and they are a company that boasts, and I mean boasts, about how they use AI to drive cars. And this prompts me to remind everybody listening that AI cannot meet the requirements of safety-critical software at all.
But it's magic beans, Andrew. It's magic beans.
Well, talking of magic beans, the technology secretary, Peter Kyle, is quoted in this article. The man who believes AI is the future and uses AI as a government minister, ChatGPT. Therefore, you can do freedom of information requests on his questions and his interactions, and you get a reply. This is a real problem. And it's something that prompted a bit of a stroppy thread from me last week on Blue Sky about we need to be mindful of how these companies are presenting information to us, who they are selecting to cover their news, and how qualified those people are in understanding anything other than, well, I took a ride in it and nothing happened on this ride. And people are inferring from that they're all perfectly safe, or they're giving that impression because they don't know. And we do not have the technological expertise being questioned by the media for people in the media to then ask the right questions of these companies to point out all the holes in this, the massive, massive holes.
We've been through this before. There's an American car manufacturer, something to do with EVs, that got super hyped by the tech press because it was only the tech press that covered them. And we've got to be very careful, and we need a much bigger crossover, I think, generally, between tech review and automotive, or indeed any other facet of our life reviews. And that's a general statement, and that's not a dig at, certainly not a dig at car mags and stuff. But I find it very interesting that TechCrunch, for example, now have a dedicated, I'm going to say mobility tech correspondent who can understand, the transport, the car side of it, and also the technology side of it. And that's really, really important, because no matter how much generative AI you have, generative AI can't have opinions, and it can't pass things together. It can only pass things in response to a request that has been made of it. It can't take in external context and all sorts of other things. And we need more of that kind of crossover. We try to do it, but
I am desperately asking the UK media, and this is not a dig at the car media. People just don't know because they are not trained in this. They are not experts in this. And so please go speak to experts. And by that, I don't mean go speak to PAVE, because PAVE is just a press office for the autonomous vehicle industry. Do not go and speak to the connected car thing that's with the UK government, because again, that is exactly the same thing. They are only ever saying positive things. You need to go speak to safety experts. You need to go speak to software experts. You need to go speak to machine learning experts to find out what is behind all the hype and the promises. So then you can ask the questions like, yeah, but you say your car will do this, but that's not technically possible with the setup you say you have. And until we start doing that, this whole idea of trust is built on lies and hype and smoke and mirrors, and that has to stop.
Because ultimately, the people who own these, what they really need, they want to be able to float it. They want to be able to sell stuff. They don't really want to be able to take it to market. They want to be able to sell it to someone else for an awful lot of money and be rich. That is the aim of this.
Yep.
It is not actually making anyone's lives better. If that happens by accident, as a side effect, then that's great. But really, these people are doing it for share price.
Yes, absolutely agree with you. All the things that we are told autonomous vehicles will make our lives better for, we can do right now with a fraction of the price if we had the will and the desire to do it, but nobody does because it's not new tech, so it's boring and dull.
And remember, that also results in a loss of skill, and then people can't then work their way up a ladder from there. And I'll point that one out for passing between different press releases and all that kind of thing. Rewording a press release is one thing, but actually understanding it and turning it into something that is real and meaningful with context, etc., it is a different thing. even within journalism, the fact that these entry-level roles to sit at the news desk and read and understand all of these press releases, and folk don't get a lot of time to read them and then turn out a story because it has to be on the web right now for the clicks. And they work as hard as they flipping can to do that, as best as they can and with the best view.
Just make sure you add, it is claimed a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of that. And you'll see that, but always get a good idea of that kind of stuff from the articles that we link to as much as possible. I mean, this one here is Cat Down, Top Gear. And again, all of our articles, everything we talk about, we always link them in the show notes, folks.
Yep. Whew, I think we made it and we didn't get too angry. We got miffed, I feel.
Yeah, I'm a little
I
worried
tried
how
to
much
keep
you're
it
going to have.
down a bit.
I'm a bit worried how much you're still going to have to cut from that last one because there was quite a lot of waffle there, but never mind. But it has brought us to Guilt Minute, a quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and reading the show, whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. One of the best ways to do that, by the way, right at the minute, is via YouTube. Loads of you have been subscribing, had a significant uptick in subscriber numbers. We're really trying to hit that magic 500 mark. And I'll keep pestering you after that to do the whole like and subscribe thing. But if you can help us, if you don't already follow us on YouTube, then that would be much obliged. Obviously, if you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Thank you, everyone that does. Very much appreciated. Okay, new car news, and I'm going to start without singing, thankfully for everyone.
Yeah, you don't want us singing.
Happy birthday to the Volkswagen Polo, and they, in celebration of this, are bringing out the Edition 50. The Polo has a very fond and warm place in my heart, as that was my first car after passing my test. The poor vehicle. Dear. But yes, so it was launched in May 1975, and they've gone through 6 generations, remarkably. As of this week, I think on the 19th, it is coming out for sale. The Polo 50 edition, and it will sit between the R line and the Black edition. If we remember from any reviews that we do of Volkswagen, there are a number of options when it comes to trim levels. Not quite as many as the powertrain options combined. No. But yes, you do need to sit down with a bit of a crazy wall and a drink to get through it all. They're going to get 17-inch Tortosa alloy wheels, tinted rear windows, panoramic glass sunroof, special 50 badges on the B-pillars, sports seats, 3-spoke steering wheel, again, 50 badges liberally applied within. The prices are going to start from £26,350. Oh, it's going to be powered by the 1-litre TSI petrol engine, which is a 95 horsepower.
Oh, nippy enough thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice looking wee thing.
Yeah.
I mean, next year's 50 years of the GTI is next year.
Oh, right.
Volkswagen are warming us all up for that one.
Well, last year they had the Golf at 50. They had the Polo at 50, and then the GTI next year. I mean, there's just, so there's constant birthday parties. God, they must be sick of birthday cake by now.
Look at it, Gunther. They're all the balloons again.
Yeah. Alan, do you want to take us on to a car which, strangely, you've never got on with?
So farewell then, Honda Civic Type R. I just didn't like you. Receptacle of so much journalistic gushing over the years. It is bowing out with a new Ultimate Edition. They're going to build 40 Ultimate Editions, and the UK is going to get 10 of the Ultimate Edition cars. Honda said it's removing the Type R from its lineup in 2026, according to this Autocar article, because the industry is changing and our model range is having to evolve with it in accordance with European legislation. There we go.
Boo to yet another hot hatch. Well, sorry, these is the hyper hatch, this to be fair. But you put this on the back of the others that have gone. You put this on the back of others that have gone, like the Focus ST, the Hyundai i30N, and then you go smaller down the range. What are you going to be left with? Golf R?
Golf R, or you're in the
John Works.
John Cooper Works, or you're in the B, or there's the GR Yaris if you can get one of the assignment.
Oh, yeah.
The Civic Type R, £48,900. These Ultimate ones are probably going to cost much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I like the EP3, the original one, but then I tried, not the current generation, but the two previous, and just despite my best efforts, are just not a car for me.
But it happens, doesn't it? We all, each one of us has got a car that people would expect us to like or not dislike, and for whatever reason, we just don't get on with them. We just don't get on.
Do you know what really annoys me? I really wanted to like it.
Oh, I know. I mean, I
really wanted to like both.
If you put on paper all the specs and what it is, and you go, well, that's an Allen car, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why the first time when you had one and you said to me, I don't like it, I was floored.
Yeah.
But there we are. Anyway, I'm going to move us on to a resto mod that isn't a Porsche 911. We continue this theme as much as we can, just for Alan's blood pressure. And this is a Mercedes SL from the 80s that has had an AMG V8 dropped into it. It is from Pogea and their Project R107. The pictures, I think it looks great, although I might tweak the wheels. But I just think the overall shape, I am reminded how wonderful the overall shape is. And again, the cleanliness of design prior to what we are living through right now, it's stark.
Yeah, the interior I would have different. I would want it to be more standard looking, particularly the air vents and whatever the heck they have done to the center console in these photos.
Yes.
But the overall concept is pretty cool. I don't know. I would hope it's a good cruiser. That's what I would really want out of it. And the thing is, if you're commissioning these things and the amount of money it costs, you can then have it how you want.
Yes. Well, they said that no two cars will ever be the same. Price is going to be POA and a case-by-case basis. You just basically go up there and go, I would like this, and this, and they'll do it and then present you with a very large bill at the end of it, but you'll be delighted as long as you can afford it.
I think I do like that these things are still happening, partly because, well, hopefully they're keeping cars that otherwise would end up off the road on the road. I do love the concept, but I know that what I choose would be slightly different from the one that's on here, that's shown here, although I do like that grey.
Yeah, the grey looks really nice with it. Actually, anyone who's listened to us for a while knows we do like a colour on a car, but that is, it looks bob on. Absolutely bob on.
It's got Recaro Ergomed seats as well. That's cool.
Anyway, let's go on to points of interest. And Alan, do you want to take us to the lunchtime read?
Lunchtime read this week is from Autocar, and it's about Autocar. The article is called Don't Look Back in Anger, The Wild World of Car Mags in the 1990s. And it's written by Patrick Fuller, who was the editor of Autocar from 1997 to 2001, so he knows a little bit about it. And, I mean, this was like peak Alan reading Autocar time for me. I can't deny it. I was at school and somehow copies of Autocar ended up in the library. I have no idea how, but I did manage to locate them and then read them from cover to cover many times over. And this really was sort of peak Autocar time. I mean, there's a picture to illustrate this, and it's obviously just been taken by someone at an event. I'm not sure what they've been driving. I think it might be a Mercedes. No, it can't be a Mercedes. It's the wrong door handle. But across the front is Patrick Fuller, and then there's Steve Sutcliffe, Colin Goodwin, and Andrew Frankel, and then Peter Robinson in the background. And it's talking a lot about what happened and I'm not going to describe them as jolly japes. There is a certain amount of that, but just a little bit about how all the magazines evolved to where they are now, and just what a different time that was, just down to ownership and competing within the same group and all of these kind of things, and a little bit of what happened next, type of stuff too. So well worth 5 minutes of your time.
Yep, good one. That I like that one a lot. Okay, I'm going to take us on to the list of the week, and Haggerty provide us with that, and it is titled What Dad Drove, 10 Family Favourites of the 70s, 80s and 90s. There's only 10, and this means I can only ask Alan, and I will not put forward my version. This is very much pointed at Britain. These are very British-centric type cars that you would expect, thanks to Anthony Ingram putting, again, Another delightful list with obviously the wonderful detail that he digs up and manages to portray in just a couple of paragraphs. Is there one here, Alan, that stands out more than anything else? Not saying that your dad drove one, but that you would like.
Yeah, my dad didn't drive any of these.
No, mine didn't either.
No. It was the 3 Series BMWs. Well, 3 and 5s, really. It's actually the answer of what happened in my family, and a couple of Mercedes as well. Tricky list. Closest we got, I guess, I'm going to choose a Citroen BX from this. Again, It was quite popular around the prep school car parks. And we did try an XM once, but it made Dad feel seasick driving.
Oh, right.
Didn't purchase the XM, but it's the closest to what got tried. There's a couple of British Leyland ones I could almost, or an Austin Road ones I almost chose just there because when I was very small, he did work for a BL group, but didn't include the one that was on here. He had Maxis and stuff. But no, Citroen BX is the one I'm going to go. That's the one that I kind of wanted him to drive at the time. Although I've got a soft spot for many of them, Dad didn't have any of them. So
no,
he definitely wasn't going to buy a Ford, put it that way.
Okay, then that just leaves us with the and finally, Alan.
This is a cracker. I almost swapped this out, and then I decided not to because I read right through, and it's really good. It's from Design Users by Dan Carney, and it's a Nissan engineer reveals challenges and innovations in automotive cup holder design. It does have a slightly US slant to it, but it's the result of a really interesting interview with Nissan's lead engineer for cup holders, Chris Fisher. And as it says in the titling up here, it says, discusses the complexities of designing the perfect cup holder, balancing size variations, styling preferences, and functionality. It's kind of funny. Cup holders are a bit like toasters as far as I'm concerned, in that there is no standard size for a slice of bread, ergo there is no standard size for a toaster. A toaster is just, we think it'll fit most people's slices of bread, and cup holders seem to be very much the same. But this talks a little bit about the thinking, how the idea behind them has evolved, and what they need to take. So, for example, you won't find a Yaris, maybe the latest model, where, a normal half-litre bottle of Coke or Sprite or whatever, other soft drinks are available, actually fits in the cup holder. It's a pain. It's too big.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they've not been through all of this, but then a coffee cup will fit perfectly.
Well, the Berlingo, they have what looks like cup holders, but they're not. They're actually indents for you to buy. Additionally, a cup holder that you slot into those. So it doesn't actually hold any drinks, as some of the passengers have found to their detriment. And I've not noticed that they've done that.
Well, the Lexus is, of course, a US market car. And despite that, it is based on a global car, which doesn't have the same focus on cup holders. But it has a different cup holder setup from a Land Cruiser Prado to try to accommodate the American market. I don't know that it, judging by the grumbles on the owners group on Facebook, doesn't really manage it, but that is the owners group on Facebook. Say what you want, but they are significantly more engineered than I think almost. Oh no, my Infiniti had incredibly engineered cup holders too, but again, car designed primarily for the American market. But other than that, I have been mostly cup holder. It's cool. Go have a read. This is actually really interesting, and also about how the rest of the interior impacts on the cup holders, not just the cup holders on the interior. And at no point in any of it is the Subaru Ascent ever mentioned, which has the highest proportion of cup holders to passengers of any vehicle ever. I forget if it's 13 or 17 for like 6 or 7 passengers. It's well over. It's over 2 per passenger. Also, by the way, complete tangent. I'm amazed that Americans, when they travel, are not just one massive bladder. The volume of liquids that they not just can buy but do buy is quite shocking. I don't know. I maybe it's because I'm a middle-aged man.
Yeah, you can't even play the Hyundai Group background music of the stream.
Oh, I love the way you're pointing that at me. That is mostly a joke, I would like to point out.
Yes,
no,
I
do not.
It is.
If one listens to running water whilst driving, it's going to happen. No matter what age or gender you are.
Yes. Anyway, I think we should round down the show now.
I think we've basically taken this down a terrible, terrible rabbit hole. And it's time for me to remind people that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts for the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts and YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Crack Windscreen on Blue Sky, you'll find me there. Or I am also on LinkedIn under my full name, if that is your preferred platform. And Alan, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you and say, of course, you do not have a tiny bladder? Personally.
No, just don't. But you can get in touch with me via Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY at bsky.social, or even if you're really desperate via LinkedIn. But we'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.